you want my slides, you just have to remember when we finish that I need them. Okay, we're going on. Now it's well about you and what we are doing as teachers. And I want to talk a little bit about the mindset and some of the thoughts that are behind this kind of teaching, this way of doing things. You have to imagine, I'm so sorry that I did not realize these things when I was a lot younger and a younger teacher. So it has only been my students for the last 15 years who've benefited from this. So it could have been for the last 40, but well, we have to develop ourselves as well, right? Now, if you imagine that there are no mistakes without learning, this is one of the theses in this way of thinking. No mistakes without learning. If you try to look and say, what will happen if you always look at mistakes as learning and not as mistakes? It will create something in the minds of your students. Your students, they will start believing a little bit more in themselves. And if you look for learning in everything you do, some very smart people have said that you will become a learning person. I don't know, is this too philosophical on a Tuesday morning? No, okay. But anyway, I think it is a way of life. It is a way of you know, setting up the whole system around you if you look upon things like this. I'm sure some of the students will like it as well. Instead of getting their papers back full of, you know, red things underneath. It's never been very motivating. You could figure out another system. Language teachers, you can come and ask. I do have some ways of doing it that I've experienced work. So see what happens. So you can actually create quite a strong sense and power of development if you look for learning in whatever you do. I know that it might seem a little bit long-haired to say that we should look for learning in everything, but if any of you have a better alternative, I would like to hear it.
In Italy, my students grow up with the terror of the red line, of the mark. Okay, if the mark is good, the parents are happy, and you reach your aim. But you didn't reach your aim because you are not learning. You are giving a satisfaction to your parents and maybe to you, but not learning. So this is the change in the entrepreneurial spirit.
So again, another thesis is that if what you are doing does not work, do something else. I mean, don't sit down and bury yourself. And it is the flexibility of the student and of yourselves that decides how well these things will succeed for you. So the flexibility is very, very important. If I wanted to go from point A to point B and I ended up in point C, is that because I'm stupid? Maybe not. I can have to sit down now and try to figure out, is it better to be in point C than to be in point B? If it is not, I have to find a way from C to B. All right? I have to sit down and think, what did I learn on my way to C that will take me to point B? Or I could say, no, I want to stay here in point C. I've got more options now. So it is very, very important to give room for flexibility, I think, and not to stop the students if they go in a direction that you did not think was maybe the correct one in the beginning, because it might turn out to be very, very good. Nobody knows until you are at whatever goal you reach it, right? So this is a kind of way around of making mistakes. Can you follow that? Okay. Nobody dares to say no. Okay. And then, so it is always very, very important to think, what can we do differently? Always look for options. And whenever you get into a problem, or whenever your student gets into a problem, they have to not give up, but they have to sit down and figure out, how do I carry on? And this is also part of the mindset behind entrepreneurship, I think. Now, the last thing I want to say about these few things is that some of us believe that the human being contains the resources that they need to achieve wanted goals. Meaning that you have to believe in your students. You have to make them realize that we believe that they can achieve what they are going to do. We all know how much easier it is to achieve something if the surroundings around us believe in us. If they don't, we won't either. You've all tried it in some ways, I'm sure. I mean, I can find situations in my life, definitely, where people that did not believe in me, well, I'm just a very, very stubborn Dane, so I said, I'll show them. But not all students act like that, right? Many of the kind of students I've told you about before, they would bury themselves somewhere and they would not come further. So that is very, very, very important, I think.
So you can put your students in the center and not your program, your what you have to do, but you have to do something for your students.
Yeah. Okay. Is this the way it works? It is. So we make no mistakes. Isn't that lovely? The new way, anyway. We only learn. If we can start believing in these things, I think that we can achieve a lot. And our students definitely can. And then with whatever we do, we have to create value for others. This is very, very, very important for motivation. If you make your students do assignments that has to be used for something, not just for you as teachers to correct, the students' motivation will definitely be bigger. When I make my students write something in English, I'll have to go home, a business letter, for instance. They have to know how to write a business letter, so I said, everybody in the class now, you have to write a business letter. You have to write to, I don't know, Dolores, and order 5 tons of tomatoes, skinned tomatoes, cross-out tomato. So, and I get 35 assignments back. I have to correct them. If you find that interesting, I'll go away right now, because then there's no reason for me being here. I mean, it is not. But when we use the EWB, that I'll come back to that, this is your thing you have to talk to your fellow teachers about. Yeah? That is an enterprise without borders, that is what it means. When my students sit down and write to other students around the world, they know that others on the internet can read what they put there. As a student, would you like to put something up that was full of grammatical mistakes? No, you wouldn't. So you would do whatever you can to make it correct. And that is where my job becomes so easy as a teacher. Because they call me, they sit in the little groups and they do this in English, German, whatever. And we solve one problem for them. Right here, right now. A grammatical problem. They are happy, they go on writing, I can go on to the next group. This is now where I become, what Armando said before, a consultant more than a teacher. If I was in front of the classroom teaching them the use of the articles in English, you know, after 20 minutes when I finished this class, everybody would have forgotten it anyway. But now they work with something that they are interested in, and they will not forget. It makes a huge difference. So, it is very, very important to do things that create value for others. And what is value? Value is in a lot of things. Arild, one of our networking people from Norway, just had a fantastic, we were in Lithuania last week, and he gave a speech on something, and he mentioned this, and I'm going to steal his good idea. It's not me who invented this little story, but toilet paper. Does toilet paper have a lot of value? Many people would say no. Now imagine yourselves at a very important meeting with a lot of posh people, influential people around, and you need to step outside for some time. You go out there, you sit there, you do your business, and when you've finished your business, there's no toilet paper. Now, does toilet paper have value? All of a sudden it has a lot of value, I think. So it is also a little, sometimes, you know, look for the value. It might not seem as if there's a lot of it, but it's there all the time. Just go find it.
So you are creating value for the others, but you are creating value for the students, or the students are the value of your work. And this is a concept that works not only for the entrepreneurial subject, but all the subjects you are teaching. I don't know if...
Definitely.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense if you use, I mean, if you, doesn't matter whatever you teach, you will very often be able to find ways of creating your questions, your assignments to the students in a way that they have to use it for something, or others have to use what they produce for something. Then it really, then things start happening. So this is what I encourage my students to do. They have to be new, right? I mean, otherwise they haven't learned anything. So, and then we also say if you don't make mistakes, it's because you don't work. So get out there and make some mistakes. It's okay, guys. You can do it, no problem. Take that from me, but you should listen to your own teachers as well. I think that's better. Now,
we will come and defend you.
Now, since you're teachers here, I can do a little bit of pedagogics as well. Many of you might have met Kolb and his circles. This is actually a way of putting what I've just said on a piece of paper. What is in the middle in the 3 blue areas, you can change that to whatever you want. But you always start at the top. You set yourself a goal, and you start working for that goal. You have to say, what do I want? And then you go into action. What do I do? When you do something, you learn. And you end at the bottom. And you look back and say, what did I learn? Did I reach my goals? If not, flexibility comes in again, right? As I said before. So I have to consider, what do I have to do now to do what or to get to where I wanted to go? Meaning that I will set new goals for myself, and the wheel keeps turning, spinning, or whatever it's at, right? It's just a way of seeing this whole procedure. Set goals, have some action, learn something, and use your flexibility to move on. And you will have a positive spiral going like this all the time. And it's sometimes it's also maybe to me anyway, it's easier to see things in these ways than so many other things. Now, coming to, do you all are connected with entrepreneurial team or with the company program? But you're not, are you? No, that's the way I understood it. Some of you help now and then, but you're not really part of the company program. Is that understood correctly?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, because I'm going to talk about business planning. When you teach company program and these programs here, the students have to build a business plan. And let Cayenne and Stefan do those things. And then the rest of you have a lot of knowledge in many different aspects, in many different ways. Use that when they come and ask for help. And little by little, I think you will become quite interested in what is really going on. And you might come and say, hey, Stefan, I want to be part of this. I want to have more to do with it. Or some of you will say, I'm very happy that I can contribute with my knowledge from my subject to what you are doing when you build your business plan or whatever it is that you're doing in your work. meaning that the teachers will become more of a team working together. You will start talking more to one another. I'll come back to that in a minute. Now, when my students build their business plan, I force them to put in a point about globalization. We believe that globalization is extremely important, and we use the, as I said before, the EWB, the Enterprise Without Borders. That is a platform within the UF, that's what you call it, isn't it? Yeah. Here in Sweden, and you can find it on the homepage. Cayenne will show you, I'm sure, or Stefan. So you can. It is a safe area for the students to work within. They have to register and things like that, but they can work there. Whatever they write there is only for the eyes of those ones who are also connected and who are also registered. So it is not an open site for everybody to see, but only those ones who work with these things. So this is a fantastic area to go and value your own work up against other young people's work around the world, because the young people from all over the world in this part. So that's very important. And this is where the students start building relations. I said before that my students would sit and they would write to somebody around the world. This is what I'm talking about. I have this company, and this company has come up with a product, and then they go looking in the EWB website and they find somebody who has a product in the same category, and they say, okay, we might be able to do something funny together with those people. We might learn from them, we might want to know something about the culture in their country. Now, social science and geography and I don't know what comes into it again. So it's not just marketing and economics. Learning about other countries is very important. If you want to go and trade in another country, you have to have knowledge. Otherwise you will make a fool of yourself. Have any of you been to Japan? No? Go sometime. The etiquette at the dining table in Japan is immense. And the possibility of making mistakes and making a fool out of yourself is fantastic. So if you know something before going, you might not be ridiculed, right? And they will accept you in quite a different way. Same we would look upon it if somebody came into our room and they had dinner and they start burp, like, I don't know what's going on here. I mean, it's not the way we do things. They will know that. So it is very important to know about these things. And that is what we try to teach them here. Yeah. So globalization, we live in a world that we cannot, I mean, globalization is here to stay, definitely. We can't get around it in any ways, I'm sure. So we better get to know about it. This is where you come in, dear colleagues. Interdisciplinarity. That's a wonderful word, isn't it? It means, if you are not so familiar with the term, that each teacher has his or her own competencies. And to make a team of teachers very strong, you work together. At my school, we are 13 teachers in the team where I work, within the entrepreneurial line of work. And economics is a big part of this. I don't know anything about it. Money to me is something that when I have it in my hand, I spend it. When I don't have any, I don't. I mean, it's just about that. I don't understand it very well. But some of my colleagues, they can talk for days with a lot of enthusiasm about economy. They have used it all their lives. They know so much about it. So I send my students there. When they're going to build the economical part of their business plan with the budgets and things, go talk to Lars. I mean, he's an expert. And I have talked to Lars before, and he said, okay, let's sit down and find out what you're going to do. Or I put up a plan so that Lars and some of my other colleagues will know what time of the year that I need their knowledge put into the students' heads before competitions and I don't know what. So they just change their plans. I know that many teachers would usually say, we don't have time for this because we have our curriculum and we have to stick to our curriculum. No, you don't. You just change it around a little bit and you can get to the same point in the end. But it makes a lot more sense both for you, your colleagues, and especially for your students all of a sudden realize that we talk with one another and that we go in the same direction. We help the students to come in to those places where we want them to go. And it's not just me, it's also Lars, it's also Susanne, it's also the other teachers around the table. Because we think in the same way, we talk to one another, and the students, they realize that we're there for them. As Armando likes to put it, we put the student in the center. You like that, don't you? To be in the center. Okay. So I think this is a very, very important part. And if you have a way, this is something for your principal to think about maybe as well, a way of setting up your daily work in teams maybe where you could put together different skills, different competences, you will create strong cooperation between your teachers. And the students will feel that very much. And you will start getting more knowledge about each other's competences and each other's subjects. And that's not dangerous. On the contrary, it is, to me, very, very giving and very, very lovely. So
the problem is not to find how I can be helpful for the students. I teach geography, or I have to find in my curriculum the subjects to help to be helpful for my students. No, because your students come to you and say, okay, we want to sell our goods to Lithuania, and we want to know something about Lithuania. So I'm the teacher of geography. And I have competencies in geography, and I can help my students to learn. So you are giving to your students a way of learning. It's not only the subject that you are transferring to your students, but the way of learning. En français, c'est-à-dire, okay, that is, yeah. You are giving the method to reach the aim. I need something, and I look for the teacher of geography, the advisor, the consultant, something about the problem, or you can find on internet, you can read the books, you can whatever.
Yeah. So what we're trying to say here is that within the company program structure, there are a lot of disciplines that are taught in all the normal and conservative, old, or whatever you would call them, subjects that we know already. A lot of elements, presentation techniques, networking, a lot of things that you can take out of Swedish. And you can go on like that. I don't want to mind. You know that yourselves. I mean, you can see that very easily. It might seem as if we're trying to make you do something, I mean, climb a very steep hill right now. But we're not really. My suggestion should be that you work out a way that suits you to do these things. And you start where you're comfortable with doing it. And then you build it into the kind of system that you like and that suits your school and your students, because that will be different all over the world. But it's very important that you start talking. I don't know how much you do that, I think you probably do that already, but you talk more to one another about what you're doing in your daily life. Okay. Amanda said a little bit about this. I find this a very, very healthy process. I do as much as I can to make my students get away from the school, because I think they learn more when they're outside the walls. Hope you just get my drift. It's not completely true. But what happens is, as soon as my students, they're sent out somewhere to talk to a blacksmith, to talk to a carpenter, because they have this prototype they wanted to have made, then they are in another world. And they have to use different competencies to get through with this. And I'll come back to the competencies, because the competencies, the soft competencies, are very, very important. But when you are at home, you sit in your comfortable way, you do things that you always do. We just go on and on and on and on, and very soon we fall asleep. And then, but if you move away from home, you can't fall asleep. You get run over by a car or something. I mean, you have to be alert. You have to go out there and you have to look for something. You meet people, you learn from them, and you move back to school. On the way back, the reflection comes up. You start thinking about what you've been doing, and then you come back to school and you work with what you have experienced. Here lies a new kind of motivation as well. And I know when I look upon Vansbro and I look upon Bergamo, where Armando comes from, the opportunities are not the same. I can tell you they're not the same where I come from either, as they are in northern Italy. We don't have neither Ferrari nor Lamborghini just around the corner. But you can definitely find people around here who have things to offer that your students can learn from. I just learned yesterday that a certain famous skier lives around the corner. I mean, he can probably provide you with some lovely things as well. And I mean, some of us are old enough to remember him as the icon within skiing, isn't he? So I mean, he has probably a lot of things that he can contribute with. I don't want all of you to run over there. I mean, give him some space, right? But still, there could be other people in the area who would love to help you. And that is one of the things that I find and I see all the time, that my students say, do you think they want to talk to us? I say, how can I know? You have to call them and say, can we have a meeting? Because we want to blah, 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 blah. Very, very few people say no. If they prepare their approach in a proper way, people will usually accept them coming. And when they're there, very often they come back, floating on little pink clouds and saying, wow, and they're talking and talking and talking and talking. They can't stop talking about all these. Now, you see, he gave me this and he gave me that, and they want to help us to do, and so on and so forth. I don't have to ask them to do anything in class. They've started themselves. So the combination of going outside, coming back and working with things is extraordinary. Okay. I won't talk so much about all the slides, and I'll kill you before time. But I have to put this one in, because very often when I talk to teachers around Denmark, they say, language teachers, no, this is nothing for us. No. You can go and talk to the marketing people and those ones, business, economy. That is such rubbish. You will find, as language teachers, a lot of fun doing these things, and you will have live contacts. You can use the EWB platform. You can find teachers there as well. And within that platform, there is another one. There's a room for teachers as well, where you can contact teachers around the world. And I am very, very positive that none of them will reject talking to you. Who are registered, they all have the same kind of idea, So they would like to learn from you, the way that you would like to learn from them, and have a collaboration in some ways. So it is very, very nice. And some of the things, this is a good example. This is Dan. We call him Dan because he's Vietnamese and he has a name that nobody could say, so we call him Dan. And it's so difficult to pronounce his name. He was not one of the keenest of students. And he was on a project where I talked my principal into saying, oh yes, we can leave him and a couple other boys on that, so maybe we can keep them here to the end of the studies, so he doesn't just fall off the train on the way. Here he is, that student who could hardly get out of bed in the morning, in Jyväskylä in the center of Finland, together with other students from 4 different countries, presenting some of the things that they have done in the little group work. Teachers, we stood down there, they had to try, how is this possible? It's amazing what happens. But it's a very, very good experience. Over here you have one of Amanda's students and one of mine, and there's another little girl from
From
Sardinia, yeah, from Sardinia,
yeah.
together, working together in an international trade fair, talking to the judges. I mean, somebody said, is this a waste of time? No, it's not. When they come back from a collaboration like that, and a language test like this, that is incredible. Some of my students in the first project that we will talk about later after the break, I talked to them after these big programs we've gone through, and I asked them, what would you have said if I told you 6 months ago that you would be standing here now? And then one of the girls, she looked at me and said, I'll tell you, you're crazy. That would never happen. She would not stand up in front of I don't know how many people, start presenting her company in English. Way far away from home. But they did. Their English might not be the best in the world. Doesn't matter, as long as the communication works. That's the way I see it. Communication first, correctness later. If you get what you ask for, communication has succeeded. Then you can start reading and making the language become perfect, and you can teach them proper English intonations and things like that if that's what you want. But I mean, it doesn't matter in the beginning.
And you are lucky because your students, I think that are well prepared in English because they listen a lot of English in their TV. But imagine the Italian students that maybe know something about the English when they hear, they listen music, but that's all, because when they watch TV, they can't listen anything in English, because all the movies or the films or are translated in Italian. So it's very, very difficult for them, and for me too, because 5 years ago my English was very, very poor. Now it has improved. It's not the best, but I'm able to communicate. So this is the example.
It's just a matter of jumping. Get outside your comfort zone and do it. And I know it's not always easy for the students to do that, but if we help them a little bit and push them the rest of the way, it's okay. Yeah. Now, that is what we see as well. Happy and proud students. They're very proud when they come into these international trade fairs, when they meet other young students around Europe, when they're together to do different kinds of things. It could be competitions, as here. These are two of our, bragging parts, because we made joint ventures. I don't know how much you talked about that, but I'll come back to describing the joint ventures. But we made joint ventures with students. With Armando and I, we started up this, and the first year we had 6 countries, and the second year we had 4 countries. Yeah. Well.
Yeah. 4 countries involved.
Yeah, involved in international projects, joint ventures across borders in Europe. So they made one common company, and there's a competition in this, like in the company program as well. And we were lucky enough to win the European Championships 2 years in a row with these things. So our students, they actually did very well. I'm under them a lot. No, but it's possible, to get very, very far and to make the students achieve a lot, and they are proud afterwards. Definitely. And to see the joy. It's also when my students go away to find themselves a place to continue their studies in Denmark. When they finish 2 years with us, where I teach, they have to have 2 years of kind of apprenticeship, where they go into a shop and they work in the shop, and then they come back to school and work in the shop like this. You probably have the same kind of system in Sweden, don't you? I think so, yeah. Who are the first ones to get those places? These students. It's quite funny. Many of these students, they did not have any belief in themselves when they started. But it changes a lot. And it makes it a lot easier for us as teachers as well, actually. I know. So, I talked about the soft competencies. We don't teach these things in schools in Denmark. I'm not sure you do in Sweden either. I heard something about how to behave but that was in not this level, which is fantastic. Sometimes the employers around our school in Odense, where I come from, they say, we don't care about the academic level of your students. Teach them these things, and we'll teach them the rest when they come to us. Because very many of our students, they have problems trying to fit in a normal society around them. They don't know how to behave. That's the way we as grown-ups look upon it, in many ways. And here, they learn how to behave. Because they have to listen, as Amanda said. They come into other cultures. They meet youngsters from around Europe. And they have to adapt. And they have to sort of fit in themselves in these areas. And that is, to me, very, very important. And they learn a lot from that. Responsibility, they have a lot of that. The first time it happened to me that I met some of my students 4:30 in the afternoon at school, still working, I thought I thought they were sick. Yeah. And I said, what are you doing? Go away, we don't have time to talk to you now, Steve. You talk too much and we have to be finished with these things and get away. So I just left and they continued working. It's 4:30 in the afternoon. I don't know how long. When does your school finish here?
It's different every day, but standard is 4 p.m.
4 p.m. Okay. 3 p.m. in Denmark. So when I met them at 4:30, you know, I thought something is very wrong here. But anyway, it was not. They were just working because they were interested. They're self-reliant. They start believing in themselves because they can see what they do makes sense. They can see that they achieve something. They get good results, and people start believing in them, and that changes things. Maturity comes out the same thing. The communication skills. Many of my students, they would hate to be up here in front of you talking to you. They would rather die, many of them, than standing in front of a group of foreign people they don't know. And if they even then have to speak in a foreign language, they'll run away at very high speed if they get the possibility. But as soon as they have tried it a couple of times, and they find out that what they do is listened to and they are respected, things change a lot. It is really fantastic for them. Languages, we talked about that before, we don't have to, but of course, when they meet people, for instance, we met in Italy, people from Portugal, Scandinavia, Finland, yeah, that's about it, yeah. 6 different languages were spoken. I know that the Scandinavian boys and girls, they try to figure out speaking their own languages and then try to understand each other, but still, they had to do it in English to make everybody understand. So, give them some pizza and then things are going, right? And the collaboration skills, Amanda talked about it before. They really, really blossom. They flourish in these areas and they become very, very good at it. Or much better than you. And I've written down at the bottom, they work harder. That is not something that we're used to in Denmark, that our students work very hard. But these students who get bitten by the bug and who sees something in what we're doing, they actually start working harder. And it's not just in my subject, it's not just on their own little mini company. It is in general at school that they do it. And that's quite amazing. So, and I mean, why did I put this picture of Anna? This is one of my students. She's here in this situation. She's in Brussels. We brought some of our students, Amanda and I, to Brussels in 11, I think it was.
11.
Yeah, for a big meeting. About 100 teachers from all over the world, and our students, they did not know that when they came. They were put up in front and they had to do the teaching of all our teachers for a whole afternoon. But just look at her. The picture tells everything, doesn't it? Is she on? She is. Lovely. Now, when they start performing together, all these collaboration skills really, really, really come into action. We met on this project in Tour Europe project, we had Bulgarians. And the Bulgarian culture is quite different from what we have here. And when we had to put up our stand at the International Trade Fair in Bratislava, they came with all sorts of funny little things they wanted to put on the table. Little eggs painted lovely and some things, you know, embroidered, and I don't know what. It had nothing to do with what we were doing. So my students, they looked at what are we going to do with this? And I said, well, you go talk to them. But they asked me, do you think it fits into? No, I don't. So they had to go back and had to talk and they had to persuade them into not putting their folklore onto the table because that's not what it was all about. A fantastic exercise. It's lovely. And it works. If I had gone out and said, you have to move these things, the students had done nothing. So this was a lot better. And seeing them here in Lisbon at a trade fair was great as well. And they really, really helped each other in very many ways, and it was lovely. Armando and I, we could just stand back and, well, we cried. So it creates a lot of development. I can't stress enough that when our students do these things, they do get more engaged and motivated in what they're doing. And I think those, this is Christian, one of my students. Here, this was quite a funny situation actually. This was also in Brussels. He was also part of that. He was one of those students who also did not want to go to school, and he finished his school and he is doing quite well for himself right now. But he wrote me later on that because of what we did in entrepreneurship, I mean that was a reason for him to stay at school. Now here he was in Brussels, and he was supposed to tell about their project. He and then Kristin from Bulgaria. They had not met before, only writing. And they were supposed to present the whole project for these 100 teachers from all over the world. And Kristin said, oh Christian, I'll do the PowerPoint. I'm quite good at this, so I'll do the PowerPoint. And Kristin said, okay, you know, he's a boy, right? If you can make somebody else do the work, then okay, it's very nice. Right? So Kristin did it. Now it turned out, when we were in Brussels, that Kristin had to go back to Bulgaria early because of some things. Meaning that Christian was left on his own with her PowerPoint presentation on the stage in front of all these teachers. And Christian, typically Christian, he had not prepared himself very well. I mean, he hadn't seen it before. So what he did not know was that the way Kristin had created this PowerPoint, and this is the lesson for you guys, she had made everything fly in from left and right and coming up and little pins writing up over, and he was, you know, and Christian, he pressed the button, you know, and he didn't know what was happening. But just look at him. He managed, he said, oh, maybe I should have seen this before, he said, and then he just continued telling what it was all about, and everything turned out in a lovely way in the end. But these things happen, and they learn so much from it, and they don't lose face. Because they have this confidence.
And he was in front of more than 100 people, 70 teachers and more than 30 junior achievement staff.
Yeah, and people from the EU Parliament.
Yeah, and people from the EU Parliament and people from Uganda, and so
that was another time I cried, you know. It goes on. Yeah, anyway, and here down the butlers from the Danish Championships, where another group, they came. Some of you might know if you know royalty. You can see that Princess Alexandra is there in front of them, talking to them. Were they proud that she was there? Well, you don't have to answer. Next to her is the American ambassador in Denmark. I mean, these situations make them grow a lot. They are all of a sudden put into situations they would never ever have been put into before. And they grow, and we can let them do it. They won't embarrass neither you nor themselves. And I think it's lovely.
We have been in Lithuania, and we saw a lot of pictures from the Lithuanian teams, from with the president of the Lithuanian Republic. So I think that to be in front of the President of the Republic and to explain what you are doing, all what you did, I think that is very, very important for young people, for students.
And do they show empathy? I just put these pictures on because I think the pictures talk for themselves. I mean, look at those faces. I mean, they are average students. No, Kristin is not. She's very, very bright.
Yeah.
The Bulgarian girl. She's exceptional. But the other two boys, Andrea from Italy and Christian, definitely just boys with big B's. Yeah. So I mean, but they are really good, I think. They listen. They respond. They have. This is again from Brussels, where the students have been teaching us. Teachers, we have been put into groups all afternoon, and then the result of the group work that the teachers had done was supposed to be presented on a stage. So when we had finished presenting our work, the students, they were the judges, asking very unpleasant questions to us teachers about what we had done. Just the way that we would have done to them if they were at examinations, right? So they put us in the same situation, and they did it very, very sharply and very, very nicely. But you can see the engagement here, and it was, again, with a smile on the face. It was lovely. Yeah? No, I'll just finish this and then we do the break.
Yes, we'll get some coffee inside here.
Yeah, I just have people to do something before we get the coffee.
Yes, yes.
I have a huge exercise for you.
Yes.
Now, our experiences. Cayenne changed the program, so we'll talk about that later. We're going on. The cross-cultural relationships and experiences are fantastic. They meet each other, and this is, I mean, if ever you get a chance to come and visit Armando in Bergamo, you should do it with the students. They have this lovely place where I think every time I've been there, we've gone to the place. I don't know the place, but we call it pizza with no end. It means that you have this huge place, and they have little cards on the table. They are red on one side and green on the other side. As long as the green one is up, the pizzas keep coming. So, and just before you die, you turn it over to the red one, right? So it's a lovely place, and the students they love it. After a few slices of pizza, they start talking a lot, and well, we have already there succeeded in what we want to do: make students meet across borders. So it's lovely. Also, the collaboration, that when we work together, this one is from Finland, students working. This is working on a bus from Bergamo to Venice. Students, they needed more knowledge from Armando, so they just sat next to him and they talked because they needed more things to be able to prepare themselves for Lisbon next month. Lithuania, in a snowstorm, very cold last year, in front of a castle, but everybody together. Here we are in something called the Oreo Shopping Center in Bergamo, and a presentation at Amanda's school where the students are in front of a lot of other students and the press presenting things. I remember that first time when you had the press there, and the cameras and everything, and the next day there were big pictures in the newspapers, and we didn't understand because it was in Italian, but anyway, it looked fine. Yes. But these collaborations, they are so giving. And here, dear language teachers, please see your possibilities. This is great. Are they, these ones, are they the leaders of tomorrow? We don't know. I mean, we should not be naive and think that we are going to create a lot of entrepreneurs, but we might create a lot of entrepreneurs, meaning good employees in companies who are not afraid of asking questions, who are not afraid of coming up with new ideas and solutions to how to do what we're doing here, because that is the mindset they have. They've been trained to look for possibilities and solutions. So the more that we can do that, I think the better we equip them for their later lives. I've lost myself somewhere. Now, I think I said it before, but all these things together really creates a very, very positive influence on the students' way of working, also in school. Not just on the little mini companies. It actually sort of, it has an infectious effect on all subjects in many ways, because they realize that if we don't work, we won't achieve anything. So even those subjects that they do not like very much, they might say to themselves, not all of them, again, we're not naive, but many of the students will say to themselves, okay, I have to do it. So they do it. And they achieve more. So that is usually lovely. And then one thing that you should not forget, that is also what is created. And well, the craziness sometimes makes my life a little bit easier, you know? But it is nice to be able to be part of these things and to see these things in action. And well, this is what I want you to do. That should be my plea to you to try to do it. Set it up in a way that suits you and your school. Find a good way, and then develop what you're doing to the best of your knowledge and to the ways that you would like it to be. There is no one way. There's so many different ways of doing these things. We'll come back to that when we talk about our projects after the break.